Staring vacantly out the window, the angry mother stewed in her car. It had already been 20 minutes since she had parked in the quiet Starbucks parking lot. Someone piqued her attention. Her eyes were fixated on the girl as she smiled at each passing car. Forcing a buried breath, she whispered as quietly as possible, barely making any sound at all. A fake smile, a fake person. Her heart was palpitating rapidly, and her blood was boiling over. But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. Over the course of the last several years, Cherry Markhams had single-handedly led a fulfilling life as a devoted mother of two residing in Miami, Florida. She worked part-time as an administrator from her home office while Jason worked as a contractor. The family had always managed to make ends meet, despite times toughening by the day. It was extremely challenging for Cherry to imagine the manner in which her entire life would soon be flipped upside down. In Jason's back pocket, Cherry found a crumpled receipt one harrowing day while in the midst of doing the family's laundry. On his way to work at a local construction site, he often stopped by Starbucks for coffee in preparation for his tiresome and laborious days on site. Despite this, she was never sure about something that had to do with the added service charge. It would be of utmost importance for her to compare it to the credit card start later on. Her interest was grabbed this particular time, so she decided to go ahead and double-check. Her credit card history indicated an additional charge from Starbucks in conjunction with the receipt she found earlier that same day. The dates didn't correspond with one another. In an instant, Cherry's beloved husband seemed to be consistently tipping exorbitant amounts of their hard-earned money. She racked her brain to devise a reasonable explanation. She was totally aware of the mounting uncertainty and apprehension slowly polluting her once crystal-clear mind. Could he have been involved in an affair? Despite her concerted efforts, she was totally unable to rid herself of the crippling anxiety caused by her unsettling discovery. So Cherry decided to pay Jason's favorite Starbucks branch a much-needed visit to find out the truth once and for all. Upon approaching the drive-through window, she immediately took notice of Jenna, a beautiful and friendly waitress in the prime of her life. As Cherry's mind immediately gravitated to the worst possible scenario, her husband had been consistently flirting with the attractive employee. Worry consumed all aspects of her life. The waitress, Jenna, appeared to have been tipped a whole lot extra by Jason. Seeing her husband's uncharacteristic display of generosity, Cherry was entirely perplexed. The receipt and the tips both weighed on Cherry, so she, in a fit of disbelief, confronted Jason. Who was this Jenna? What could possibly be a valid reason for giving notable amounts of their hard-earned money away to a total stranger? When Jason eventually returned home that fateful evening, Cherry immediately confronted him about the receipt. Jason was shocked beyond belief and completely denied even having the slightest of clues as to what she was referring to. He insisted that he had left neither Jenna nor anyone else, for that matter, any inflated tips. She was unsure of what to think, feeling a mixture of relief and confusion. His surprise at her accusation led him to deny knowing anything about what she was going on about. Cherry could not and would not believe that her beloved husband would ever dare to lie to her, but her ocean of doubts continued to plague her every waking moment. After returning to the Starbucks, Cherry approached Jenna's drive-through window to investigate the situation further. After watching her closely, she turned to the other. "So fake," she cried out and slammed down on the brakes. How could a total stranger cause her so much grief? In order to confront the youthful waitress about the charges to her credit account, she gathered all her bravado to make her move. The Starbucks branch anxiously waited for Cherry as she sat in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel firmly, causing all the veins in her hands to bulge in obvious rage. Her heart thudded like a war drum, and with anger and anxiety flooding her entire body, she had no idea what to expect. As she stared in defeat at Jason's receipts, she couldn't stop thinking about how many secrets he may or may not be keeping from her. Any semblance of trust in Jason was being flushed out of her mind rapidly. Cheryl took a deep breath before opening the car door. She was going to confront Jenna and get the answer she needed. Her mind was flooded with all kinds of scenarios and possibilities as she walked to the drive-through window. What would she do if Jason was seeing this girl behind her back? What if he was spending their money on her? The sound of her footsteps echoed in her ears as she approached the counter, and her heart pounded louder with each passing second. Jenna turned around, a polite smile plastered on her face, not recognizing the woman who had been watching her from afar. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Jenna asked, her voice filled with warmth and professionalism. Cherry struggled to maintain her composure, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I need to talk to you about something," she managed to say, her eyes locked with Jenna's. Jenna's smile wavered slightly, sensing the urgency in Cherry's voice. Of course. What can I do for you? There was no turning back now. She had Jenna just where she wanted her. Cherry leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a hushed tone. I noticed that my husband has been tipping you excessively. Can you explain why? Jenna's eyes widened in surprise, clearly caught off guard by the accusation. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Your husband? Now Cherry was becoming slightly irritated. It seemed like Jenna was playing a game of ignorance. Cherry's frustration grew. Yes, my husband, Jason. He's been coming here every morning and leaving you generous tips. Why? Jenna's expression shifted from surprise to a mix of confusion and concern. Ma'am, I get tips from lots of people, but I have no idea why your husband would be doing that. I'm just an employee here doing my job. Cherry's mind raced, searching for answers. Could Jenna be telling the truth? Was there another explanation for the mysterious tips? She studied Jenna's face, looking for any sign of deception or guilt, but all she saw was a look of embarrassment and anger. Realizing she had jumped to conclusions without concrete evidence, Cherry's anger began to dissipate, replaced by a sinking feeling of doubt and regret. I'm sorry, Cherry stammered, her voice tinged with a mix of embarrassment and regret. I shouldn't have accused you without knowing the facts. It's just, I found a receipt in my husband's pocket, and I thought. Jenna looked at her and then blurted, Lady, I'm really busy. If you don't mind, I have customers waiting. Cherry eventually left, but she still had a nagging feeling at the back of her mind. To her, Jenna was being very vague and evasive. Maybe she was hiding something, and Cherry noticed Jenna's eyes wide when she mentioned Jason's name. She must have hit a nerve somehow. That was not a normal reaction. Cherry's job was not done. Next, she was going to confront her own husband and hear what he had to say for himself. As Cherry drove home, her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She needed to confront Jason about the receipt and the mysterious tips. She needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. When she arrived home, the house was eerily quiet. The kids were still at school, giving Cherry the perfect opportunity to have a private conversation with her husband. She found Jason in their bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, lost in thought. His face lit up with surprise when he saw her. Hey babe, what's up? He asked, his voice masking any hint of guilt. Cherry wondered why he was sitting in deep thought. What or who was he thinking about? Cherry closed the door behind her, casting a shadow over the room. Her voice was calm but determined. Jason, we need to talk. I found a receipt in your pocket today from Starbucks, and there's something strange about it. Jason's eyes darted around the room, his expression shifting from surprise to unease. He tried to compose himself, but the guilt was written all over his face. What are you talking about, Cherry? He replied, his voice faltering slightly. Don't lie to me, Jason. I saw that you've been tipping the waitress, Jenna, extra amounts. What's going on? Why would you do that? Jason's face paled and beads of sweat formed on his forehead. He stumbled for words, struggling to come up with an explanation that could appease Cherry's suspicions. She looked at him and could see him struggling. And then he said, yes, it's extra, but only because she's a sweet, friendly girl, and it looks like she goes to college, so I thought the extra tips might come in handy for her. Why is that something that you have to worry about? You have 2 kids of your own that you need to be taking care of. Cherry was boiling with anger. Jason sheepishly looked down and apologized. He promised that it wouldn't happen again. But Cherry wasn't convinced that the matter was over. Something still didn't add up. Cherry wasn't sure if she believed her husband. It did sound like a plausible explanation, but she couldn't help but still feel uneasy and skeptical about this whole situation. Just the way both of them seemed a bit too nervous when she brought up the issue. Cherry wasn't born yesterday, she could easily sense if something was going on. Refusing to let the matter rest, Cherry made up her mind to return to Starbucks and confront the alleged culprit, Jenna. As she pulled up to the drive-thru window, her heart raced with anticipation. Taking a deep breath, Cherry pushed open the car door and marched towards the drive-thru window. She could feel the tension building inside her as she approached. Jenna? Jenna nodded hesitantly, her eyes widening with recognition. Yes. Can I help you? I'm here to ask about that receipt in my husband's pocket again. I looked at it again and something just doesn't make sense about it. Jenna's eyes darted around nervously, her hands fidgeting with the cash register drawer. I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't know what you're talking about. Cherry's eyes narrowed, her frustration growing. Don't lie to me. I know what you've been doing. You've been stealing from us. Jenna's face paled and she stammered, I didn't mean to. It was just extra tips. I thought no one would notice. Cherry's voice rose with indignation. Extra tips. You were giving yourself a $10 tip every time my husband ordered his coffees, thinking he wouldn't notice. How dare you? Jenna's voice trembled as she pleaded, "Please, Mom, don't take legal action against me. I was just trying to make ends meet. I didn't think anyone would find out. Your husband is a great guy." Cherry's anger surged. To her shock and anger, Jenna confessed that she had been stealing from Cherry by adding a $10 tip to her own account every time Jason visited. Without another word, Cherry turned on her heels and stormed into the Starbucks, demanding to speak with the manager. The manager, a middle-aged man named Mr. Anderson. "I am appalled by Jenna's behavior," Mr. Anderson said, his tone grave. "We will investigate this immediately, and if her actions are true as you've described, she will be terminated." Cherry nodded, her determination unwavering. "Thank you, Mr. Anderson, but this can't end here. People need to know that they can be robbed even while getting a simple cup of coffee. I want to post a warning online." Jenna was sobbing. "Please don't. My mother is going to kill me. I promise I won't do it to anyone else." "You've done enough, Jenna." "Please keep quiet," Mr. Anderson told her. Mr. Anderson understood the seriousness of the situation and helped Cherry document what had happened, stressing the importance of credit card vigilance. Jenna, filled with regret, had stolen $240 over a month, thinking small amounts would go unnoticed. Cherry, determined to prevent this from happening to others, shared the story online where it gained attention and support. As a result, Jenna was suspended from Starbucks and surveillance footage revealed she had stolen from other customers. Starbucks management implemented stricter protocols to prevent future thefts. However, Cherry remained suspicious. Why had Jenna specifically targeted her husband, Jason? Was it just theft, or was something else going on? One night, after their children were asleep, Cherry confronted Jason. He appeared surprised and concerned as she questioned him about Jenna. Though he denied any involvement, Cherry couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. Determined to uncover the truth, she pressed on. "Did you have any kind of relationship with her, even if it was just emotional?" Jason hesitated, avoiding her gaze. Cherry knew there was more to the story. Jason sighed in defeat. "Cherry, I have to be honest with you," he admitted. He had exchanged friendly conversations with Jenna at the drive-thru, but insisted it was nothing more. Cherry felt a mix of relief and sadness. Her worst fears weren't confirmed, but trust had still been broken. "How can I be sure you're telling the whole truth?" she asked. Jason reassured her, promising he had never been unfaithful and deeply regretted his actions. Despite his words, doubt lingered in Cherry's mind. Her world had been turned upside down, and she didn't know who to trust. Unable to shake her suspicions, she waited until Jason fell asleep, then searched his phone. Finding nothing incriminating, she was left with more questions than answers. Realizing trust had to be rebuilt, Cherry chose to move forward. She and Jason started couples therapy, and though it was difficult at first, progress was made. Jason took responsibility, determined to make things right. In the end, Cherry was grateful she uncovered Jenna's theft before it escalated. While their marriage had been tested, they were now on a path to healing. Cherry was determined to prevent Jenna from stealing again. Her husband, embarrassed for being tricked, stood by her as they took action. Jenna, shaken, admitted to stealing Cherry's credit card information, exploiting Jason's distractions. She pleaded for forgiveness, explaining her desperate need for money. Though empathetic, Cherry knew action was necessary. She and Jason reported Jenna to her manager, who ultimately decided to fire her. The next day, Jenna came to Cherry's house, begging her not to take legal action. Tearfully, she revealed her struggles, softening Cherry's anger. Though betrayed, Cherry chose not to press charges but insisted Starbucks terminate Jenna to protect others. The manager, shocked and apologetic, assured Cherry that corrective measures would be taken. They also agreed to warn customers about credit card theft. As the story spread online and in local news, it became a cautionary tale, reminding people to stay vigilant with their personal information. The online post gained widespread attention, with many sharing similar experiences or thanking Cherry for the warning. Though shaken, Cherry took comfort in knowing she had prevented further harm. She and Jason worked on their communication and gradually rebuilt their trust. From then on, Cherry made sure to check her statements carefully. "Let's just have our coffee at home," she suggested. Jenna, facing the consequences of her actions, lost her job and realized the weight of her mistakes. Determined to change, she sought professional help to continue her studies and rebuild her future. She was banned from Starbucks for life. Thank you for watching. If you like this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscription, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming stories.